Okay, holy smokes. I actually thought I was live that whole time. So it was like 30 minutes of prep for this. So this is what we're going to build today. So we have this new sample that's coming, this new Stripe sample that's coming. It's called Accept a Payment. And in it, you'll see how to implement all different kinds of payment methods. And so this is kind of like a sneak peek of the sample, what you might get eventually when we finally or ultimately get rid of our accept a card payment sample. And so what we want to do today is add support for this buy now, pay later payment method called Afterpay Clearpay. In it, we'll have to accept the billing address and the shipping address. And when we click pay, we'll be redirected to a test payment form where we can actually say, okay, authorize test payment, and then we'll be dropped back into our return where we say, okay, here's the return for this Afterpay Clearpay payment and the payment intent for the payment. So let's take a look and see how we can do this. So I'm actually going to delete it. So I actually already implemented it. So we'll go through and we'll delete the whole thing, or we'll implement the entire thing. And so here on this index page, app, yes. So here in Afterpay Clearpay, in order to add Afterpay Clearpay as an actual route that will show some React component, we're going to go create that route now. So let's see, let's take a little tour. Let's take a little tour. So in index.js, we have a very simple method that says when the DOM finally loads, make a GET request to the server to /config, which will respond with just the publishable key. Take your publishable key and call load stripe, which returns a promise. And then we can use this promise with the elements provider. Now, the elements provider is part of React Stripe.js and allows us to inject this Stripe promise so that we can resolve an instance of Stripe or an instance of elements inside of our children components. So here we have app that's implemented. So if we dig into app, this is using like kind of just the normal React router DOM for a browser router. And we're going to import the Afterpay Clearpay component from Afterpay Clearpay. And if we receive a request to /Afterpay Clearpay, we will just use that component as what we're showing on the page. And so we need to implement that component. So we can say Afterpay Clearpay.js. And inside of here, we're going to create a couple components. One is going to be the Afterpay Clearpay form component. One is going to be Afterpay Clearpay return. And one is just going to be a switch between the two. And we'll call it Afterpay Clearpay. And that's what we'll ultimately return is this one. And the Afterpay Clearpay form will be a React component that's responsible for rendering that form that has all the address information. The return will be responsible for displaying what happens when you get back from successfully paying. So yeah, hopefully that works as expected. Okay, so let's see here. Afterpay Clearpay, the brand new payment method that's supported by Stripe. And you can check out the docs here. I will drop them in a comment if you want to take a look. And it is it's also, so it's a payment method is called Afterpay, but it's also known as Clearpay in the UK. So it's a payment method that's available in these countries. So we're going to add like a little country drop down so you can pick one of these countries when you're going through the process. And this is what it will look like. So I've got the server running. It's a node server. Actually, before we go too far, why don't we take a look at that also? So if we jump into the server directory, and today we're using node, but really you can look at any of like these nine server languages or server implementations. So again, when we receive a GET request to /config, we're just rendering back the publishable key from our environment variables. And if we receive a POST request to create payment intent, this is where the juicy stuff happens. So the POST requests body will include a payment method type. That's going to allow us to dynamically create payment intent objects for different payment method types, or that can be confirmed with different payment method types. And we can't just hard code all of the list of payment method types here, because some payment method types only work with specific currencies. So from the request body, we're going to take in the payment method type and the currency, and then we're going to use those to create a payment intent. And it turns out that so far, every single payment method type can be used this way. And then we're just going to render back the client secret, or we're going to render back an error. That's the entire server, really. It's just like, those are the only two endpoints we're going to use for this example in this demo. But we have, yes, we have that /config, and we have /create payment intent. And in our Afterpay Clearpay form component, when we handle the submit of that form component, we will make a POST request to create payment intent. We'll take the resulting client secret from that payment intent, and then we'll use Stripe.js and the injected, the injected Stripe instance that we can retrieve with the use Stripe hook, and then we will confirm that payment intent with confirm Afterpay Clearpay. So that is looking good. Okay, so cool. Let's do it. All right, what do we go first? Where do we go first, right? So let's create this Afterpay Clearpay component. So const Afterpay Clearpay, and this will be, we're going to use function components, and like that's all we're going to use today. And so for now, I'm actually just going to have this be like return Afterpay Clearpay form initially, and then we'll like mess around with it as we go. I think I need to do this maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So then I can say like export default with router Afterpay Clearpay. And we need to use like, so we need to import some stuff. So let me, just a moment. Okie dokie. Cool. Okay, so right. Okay, so where do we get this with router thing? This comes from the React router DOMs. We're going to say import with router from React router DOM, and we also need to import React from React. We're going to use state and use effect also in what we're working on today. We also want to import use Stripe from at Stripe React Stripe.js. And we have a tool within this sample for displaying status messages. So I'm just going to pull that in. It's a status messages component, and then we have like a little hook that works with it called use messages. And that's just like a local thing, status messages. All right, so we've got our Clearpay form, we've got our with router. So let's add a const Afterpay Clearpay form, and that's going to be a React component. It's not going to take any props or anything right now. Yeah, might as well make our return also. Okay. Great. And so what is this going to look like? Well, it's going to be a massive form. So we're going to have some form with ID payment. Let's see, payment form. And it'll also have status messages. And this is just like, again, purely for debugging and such. And we pass in, or this status messages component that we have, that's a helper, takes in one prop, and that is called messages. So we can say const messages, and add message is what we get back from the use messages hook. And then we can do stuff like just call like add message, like loading or something. And that should render into our form. All right, so yeah. Okay, so Afterpay Clearpay form, Afterpay Clearpay form. And we want that with router. What is this? Element type is invalid. Expected a string for built-in components, use a class or function, but got object. Okay, did I not do that export correctly? Alt with router. Maybe I need to restart this stuff. Let's see. What is going on here? Oh, I probably spelled something wrong. Yeah, I did. Status messages. Weird. Okay. Split pane horizontally. So we're in accept a payment, custom form, client, React create app, React app, npm start. Refire up the server here. And okay, so now we should be able to go to 3,000. Okay, Afterpay, Clearpay. I don't think that's, What is going on here? Oh, maybe this path is, okay, here we go. This is where I spelled it wrong. Status messages. There we go. Okay, too many re-renders, right? Okay, so we don't actually need to call that in there. Let's see. All right, so we've got something, or we've got nothing, but that's all right. H1 is going to be Afterpay / Clearpay. All right, cool. So we've got at least the base here. So in this form, we want to do something like create 2 field sets to accept 2 different kinds of addresses. So we want to get the billing address. We can use a legend tag, billing. And we can do the same thing for shipping. Right, so we're going to have 2 field sets. The billing is going to also fetch the name. So this is going to have like name, email, and then address. And then the shipping is going to have just name and address. And these are required fields in order to use Afterpay. So let's just say, actually pull these from Afterpay, Clearpay. We've already implemented this in HTML. So I'm just going to grab. In fact, let's just remove, yeah, let's just grab the entire form from the HTML example, and then we will clean it up. Okay. All right. So how do we want to clean this up? We want to replace, so everywhere that we see value equals, we want to make those something different. So let's clear out the values for all of those. And okay. All right, so we're gonna use state in order to control all of our controls. So we're gonna say something like const name set name. Use state Jenny Rosen. And then we're going to do email. We'll set email. And then we'll call this jenny.rosen@example.com. So I feel like I'm going to write these a lot, and I don't have any Vim snippets for this yet. So I think it might be a good little detour to go create some Vim snippets. So javascript.snippets. And let's go to the bottom here and say this snippet is called use. And what I want it to do is I want it to print out const, and then I want to have like a name. And we'll say that name is like name. And then I want it to have something else. And that something else is going to be set with name. So let's see, maybe we say like $2, which is $1, or like set $1 or something like that. And that's going to be equal to use state. And then inside single is going to be $3. No, $3 like that, I think. And then we will put, we should land at the very end, I think. So let's see, use, boom, name. Okay, so that didn't work as expected because I wanted this to like sort of pre-populate as I was typing. So if I say name again, let's see, use, boom, name. No, that didn't work. Use, oh, maybe it needed to be, okay, let's try that again. Set $1. Let's see. Use, boom, name, set, or NA. Okay, so you see how that's like NA, set name. Okay, so it's pretty close. Why don't we just make it $1, and then we can actually, yeah, we'll just have it rewrite the whole thing. That's fine. Use, so like now we want to use the line 1, which is going to be set line 1, and we'll say 123 Main Street. And okay, so that works nicely. I like that. That's fine. Use line 2 is set line 2, and we'll leave that blank. We're going to say city, set city, San Francisco. State, set state, California. Use postal code, set postal code 94111. Use country, set country. And then, yeah, AU, Australia. It'll be the first in the list, and that'll work fine. Okay, so then what we want to do is, why don't we write like just a little, so this is going to be, yeah, this will be like all the billing info. And then we want like all the same stuff for shipping. And for shipping, we need all of these. So let's just drop that here. And then what I want to do is make all those uppercase and then put in shipping. Shipping. And then what we can do is set to set shippings. Okay, so that should be cool. All right, so now we need to go through our HTML elements and update. Instead of putting value whatever, we want it to be value and then curly braces. So actually, I think we can say like value equals this. Value equals. Did I just delete them all? Value equals, okay. Okay, so we don't want to do them all because we don't want to change these ones, but most of them we do. So if it has double quotes, yeah, okay. So if we want to replace value equals double quotes with value equals curly braces, so that we can just like quickly populate all of these values. So this first one is going to be name. The next one is going to be, actually, yeah, before we do that, let's make it a little bit more complex. So in addition to setting the value with this use state variable, we're also going to want to add an on change, which is going to be this thing that's like pretty standard. I'm going to call set e.target.value. And then it's actually not going to be set. It's going to be like set name, set something, but we'll just say set for now, and that should give us a ton of pre-populated stuff. All right, so the value here is going to be name. The value here is going to be email. The value here is going to be line 1. The value here is going to be line 2. The value here, city, state. I probably could have done this with a macro, but it's all good. And then for these select boxes, you can just set the value equal to country and use the same onChange function so that when the select box is changed, this function will be called. It'll be passed an event where the event's target is the select box itself, and the value from that box is the option that was selected. So we can just call set country like so. And I think we're going to need the same thing here. Oh, gosh. All right, whatever. So value equals shipping country, and on change is going to be e that goes to set country e.target.value. Okay. This one's going to be, yeah, let's just keep going through setting our values. Country, oh man, I'm losing track of everything we've done. Sorry. Shipping value, no, shipping line 1. Shipping line 2. And shipping city. And wow, working with addresses is kind of a pain. Shipping state. What are y'all working on? Let me know in the chat or in the comments below. Shipping postal code. Yeah, curious what you're building and if you're considering using Afterpay, and if so, what your business model is and what it looks like and kind of what you're selling. Would love to see what you're building or working on, or if you're using React, would love to hear if there's a better way to do this, or if you've seen other patterns like this. Cool. Line 2. All right. Set city. Set state. Set. That's funny too, because set state is like a thing in non-hook land, right? Set state, or no, that is the thing that we imported. Is that going to mess that up? Set state. Maybe not. Oh, use state. Set state is the old school class-based components, right? All right, so set line 1, set line 2. Oh, actually, these are shipping, huh? Set shipping line 1. Set shipping line 2. Set shipping city. Set shipping state. Set shipping postal code. And set country. All right, what do we got? What's the error here? Oh, wow, look at that. Boom. No errors. Holy smokes. Okay, so let's go make this form submittable on submit handle submit, and we'll say handle submit is a function that when called, we're going to prevent the default. It's going to be an async function, actually. And initially, we'll just console.log all of the things. So name, email, line 1, line 2, city, state, postal code, country, and then all the same things, but for shipping. So shipping doesn't have an email, but it does have all of these others. Oops. Refresh the page. So then if we click submit here, if we look in the console, we have an object that was logged out, and this is all the data that we just retrieved. Let's actually change the billing, like the name for the person we're going to bill to Billy, and we'll make them live in Reno, Nevada, 89501, because that's a different place. And the country is US. And yeah, we'll leave that the same. That's fine. Just to see, like, to make sure that our shipping address stuff and our billing address stuff is coming in differently. So we have our name. This is the person who's buying it. Name is Jenny. And this is where she's at. And then we have the shipping info, and that all looks fantastic. So now we need to take all this data and use it to confirm payment that we haven't actually created. So first, we're going to create the payment intent on the server, and we're going to confirm the payment on the client. So in order to create it on the server, we're just going to call the server endpoint. So server.js, right? So we have that create payment intent endpoint that's going to take in the payment method type in the currency. So let's do that first. We're going to call, we're going to use the fetch API to make a server-side AJAX call to create payment intent. And we're going to pass in the payment method type as Afterpay, Clearpay, like so. And the currency, we'll just pass USD for now. And when that's returned, we're just going to deserialize the response as JSON. And let's use async await. So we're going to say if there was an error or if there was a client secret, we'll handle those. Okay, so then if there was an error, we want to add a status message. So we can do that with add message. Add message is error.message, and we'll just return if that's the case. Otherwise, we want to do something with that payment intent. So here we'll call const error payment intent equals await stripe.confirm Afterpay Clearpay payment. And the first argument is going to be that client secret that we just got back from the server, client secret. And then the second argument is going to be a big object with a bunch of options and data. So the first one we need to pass in is the payment method, stuff about the payment method. We also need to pass in stuff about shipping, and we need to pass in a return URL. The return URL is going to come back to the URL that we're at, which I think we can get from like window.location.origin/Afterpay Clearpay. And we're going to pass in the query string of return equals true. And this return true is going to allow us to trigger the return component rather than just like triggering this form component. Now in the payment method itself, what do we need to pass here? Well, let's take a look at the docs real quick so I can remember. So also in the documentation for accepting an Afterpay or Clearpay payment, here you'll see that when they're creating the payment intent server side, they're passing in the shipping address. Instead of passing it in server side, we're only passing the amount, currency, and payment method type server side, and we're going to pass in this shipping info client side. So that's going to be just a little bit different from what the docs are doing, but I think that's okay. So here is all the payment method details that we care about, and billing details is going to have the email, name, address, and all this stuff. So we need billing details, which are going to have the address, which is going to have line 1, line 2, city, state, country, and then postal code is snake case in the API. So we're going to pass it in like that. And then the billing details also include the name and email. So that should give us, that should get us pretty far. And then shipping, we want to pass in line 1 is shipping line 1. Line 2 is shipping line 2. City is shipping city. State is shipping state. Country is shipping country. Postal code is shipping postal code. And then we also need a name. Shipping name. Oh, this is all going to fit under address too, I think. Okay. Should we give it a whirl? Oh, right. Okay. So we're getting an error here that says something about the error. Okay. Identifier error has already been declared. So it turns out that the error response we get from create payment intent and the error response we get from this client-side API call to Stripe to confirm the payment, both errors are going to be the same shape. And so we need to alias them. So I'm going to call this one backend error, and then we'll just use that here. Backend error. And then this one we'll call the Stripe error. And okay, so if there's a backend error, we're going to add a message and then return. Otherwise, we should say like add message like payment intent created. And so then we're going to try to confirm the payment intent. We'll be redirected. And if there's an error, if there's a Stripe error, so if Stripe error, then we want to add message Stripe error message and return in that case. Stripe is not defined. Cool, because we need to call use Stripe const Stripe. No, Stripe equals use Stripe, maybe. I can't remember if that needs to be called outside of that or what. Okay, then the next error we're getting is saying invalid DOM property 4. Did you mean HTML4? So when we're working in React, we can't use the 4 attribute on labels. The whole point of this 4 attribute is so that you can click on name and it will add focus to the correct input box. So the browser doesn't care, but I think this is something from React. So we want to change the 4 attribute to HTML4. So I'll just use this find and replace and refresh, and that should clear that error. Cool. All right, let's give it a whirl. So we click pay. Payment intent was created. And we were redirected to this test page for Afterpay Clearpay, which is allows us to click on this authorized test payment and test out the payment. And we're redirected back. In the query string, we see the ID of the payment intent, and we see the client secret for the payment intent, and we see our return true thing, which is great because we need to use that in order to, number one, we're going to use this return true query string variable to know whether or not we need to render the return. So we're going to say like something like const query is equal to new URL search params for the search, which use location is a hook that I think comes from, where does that come from? Is that from React Router DOM? Sure. Chat. And then if query.get return, then we want to do the return one, else we want to do this one. I think, yeah, I turned off prettier because it was like yelling at me about stuff, but now I'm wanting it. Okay, so we're going to return Afterpay, Clearpay, return if we're coming back and we're landing back here from somewhere else. Okay, so the return basically says like if I'm returning back after successfully paying, then we should render a status message that says something like, here's the status of the payment intent, which we can get by making a client-side API call to Stripe to retrieve the payment intent. So that is what we're going to do next. So here we're going to just say something like, use Stripe again. And we're going to use messages again. Add message. This comes from our use messages hook above. And then we're going to pull out the query string params again, which we can do like kind of like this: payment intent client secret. But instead of window.location here, we want to call it use location. Okay. And this is going to be the client secret now. And because we want to make an API call to Stripe and we don't have like an action that's being taken, this is going to require an effect. So we're going to use effect. And what is the effect going to be? It's going to be a function. How I don't know if we need to, yeah, we probably need to pass in Stripe or something. And probably some more stuff. I don't know. We'll see. So if there's no Stripe, then return. And we'll do nothing. Otherwise, we want to fetch the payment intent, which we can do with like error payment intent is equal to await stripe.retrieve payment intent, and we can pass in the client secret that we got from the query string params. And if there's an error, then we want to like add message with error.message. Otherwise, we will just say add a message with something like payment for the payment intent status. And let's just give it its ID, payment intent.id, which again, we could technically pull from the query string param, but whatever, we'll just use what we got returned from the API. This is cool too, because you could show things like the amount that was on the payment intent, the currency, the payment method types, et cetera, like when it happened, and other things that might be interesting here. Okay. So what is next? What do we want to do? Well, we need to render some stuff back. So this is just going to be some simple HTML. We're going to return, what are we going to return? We're going to return a fragment and an H1 that has like Afterpay, Clearpay return. And we will just use our status messages, this same component here, the status messages component. And let's see if we've got anything. Right. So we can only use await within async functions, and there's something about use effect that doesn't allow it to work with async functions. So we have to do this little trick where we're like const fetch payment intent is a function, or is an async function that does all this stuff, and then we can just call it. We can call it like right here, fetch payment intent. So that should work, I think. Let's see. Oh, also this needs to be probably in a list. Yeah. There's other things here that we're using though in the use effect that might have changed. So I'm thinking like maybe we should pass in add message and the client secret just in case those things change, so that we can re-render the page in those cases. It's kind of like your dependency injection thing in Angular, where you say like, okay, if any of these things change, then re-render. Or like re-execute the use effect, I think. So, what's going on here? Browser is not happy. Oh my gosh, I have so much open. Let me kill some of this. What's going on here? Goodbye. Goodbye, browser tabs. Goodbye. Give me my memory back. No. Maybe? What's going on? My server crash and burn. Okay. Shipping country is assigned a value but is never used. Payment intent is assigned but never used. All right, so payment intent. Where is that assigned and never used? Probably up here. Sure. Okay. So, oh, cool. All right, so we've got, this is the return. This is what it looks like. This is when we return back. That's what it looks like. So let's go through the whole flow. We've got our Afterpay Clearpay component. Here we have the ability to write our own addresses. So cool. And when we click pay, it creates a payment intent. The payment intent is returned from the server. Then we use the client secret to redirect to Afterpay's page. In production, again, this is going to be the actual Afterpay page. If we were to fail the test payment here, then the status of the payment intent should be reflected as such here. So it requires payment method. This means we have to like go through the payment flow again for this payment intent. Which we don't really support restarting with the same payment intent, but that's totally fine because you could just create another one and then go through the same process. we're creating a payment intent, we're redirecting, and then we click authorize test payment. And we are authorizing and dumped back into Afterpay, Clearpay, and the return. So that's it. We have successfully added support for Afterpay, Clearpay to our Stripe sample for accepting a one-time payment. Again, this is a brand new payment method. It's only supported in 4 countries right now, but it's exciting. And yeah, it seems pretty straightforward to integrate. The only thing that's like unusual or different from other payment methods is that you have to pass in the full billing address and shipping address every time that you purchase something, which isn't a huge deal. So yeah, thanks again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If not, you were maybe lulled to sleep by watching the editing of lots of form elements for addresses. So yeah, cool. Thanks for hanging around, and we'll see you next time.